comments.
Yeah.
Taylor got his job in
Kids are getting
another
smarter.
school district, right?
The principal in his hometown,
Somewhere.
his hometown.
His hometown.
South Waterloo. Ready? Call to order the meeting of the Southeast Polk School Board. It is May 5th at 5:30 PM. Karen, could I get roll call, please?
Chad,
Here?
Lori,
Here.
Bridget,
Here.
Rick,
Here.
Whitney,
Here.
Brett,
Here.
Tom,
Here. All right, we have a quorum. The next one is agenda adoption. Dr. Wapnick, are there any changes to the agenda? No changes. Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Karen?
Lori,
Yep.
Bridget.
Yep.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is our district vision and mission. Do we have a volunteer?
I'll read it.
Yeah.
Southeast Polk will learn, lead, live. Success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Thank you, Lori. On to letter E, public comments. We have one here, Phyllis Murphy.
Good evening. My name is Phyllis Murphy, 607 4th Street Southeast in Altoona. I just wanted to give my personal thank you to the board for the board recognition and for all you do. It's not a fun job and the pay is slightly underpaid. So anyway, I just want to thank you and the superintendent too. So continue good work, good thinking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Bridget, did you want to go ahead?
All right. Well, in the theme of gratitude, I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. And I want to acknowledge our Southeast Polk teachers and staff for all the hard work that they do every day. And we can see this especially when we visited the different schools this year, but we know that that type of dedication and passion is present every day. So I just wanted to say we appreciate you and thank you.
Well said. All right, moving on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
We will certainly miss those leaving our wonderful district and appreciate their time and dedication to the district and look forward to those new filling positions and coming on board.
Anyone else? Ditto. All right, Karen?
Bridget,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
All right, on to our business portion of the meeting. Letter A is the, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, AFSCME agreement. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the AFSCME agreement.
Second. All right. Any discussion?
We
Questions?
appreciate the negotiations and thank you for giving us a good negotiations.
Karen?
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes,
Bridget,
Yes.
On to fiscal year 2023 salaries and wages, administrator and other professional staff. Do I have a motion?
motion to approve the recommendation for a salary wages increase of 3.95 for administrators and other professional staff for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Questions or discussion from anyone?
No, this is the one that I always have a problem with every time. This is the third time we've done this, so. And that's just driving the wage gap between our administration and our teachers, our frontline, I guess, our other employees. So this has been a tough one because we do this. This will be the third time in a row that we keep kind of increasing that wage gap between our administration team and then our teachers and our cooks and everybody else. So we're giving them the same percentage. But we're just driving that gap open. And this is the same population that has the same like special benefit plan as far as like the free family insurance. So for most of those, so we have like this divide and then we just keep driving that wider and wider. So this is, I don't know, as far as dollar to dollar, this is one that I don't agree with as far as that goes. But like I said, this is the third time. And I gave you guys all an email too, kind of with not such a short synopsis as far as that goes. But so yeah, not in favor of that, especially now. I mean, because as far as the two that we've approved, we're above where our budgeted rate was to begin with. So as far as kind of how we projected out. So, and I just think looking forward as far as how everything's going with our economy and everything else, it really worries me. So, and I think we're gonna have to scrape together every dollar we can as far as to get teachers and other personnel, mental health, everything else in front of our kids over the next couple of years. So I don't know, just being fiscally responsible right now. It's just, I don't think it's a good idea, but that's just mine.
Anyone else?
You go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I do agree with Tom's words. I think the thing where we differ is the wage comparisons. I'll agree with you on the insurance. The insurance is a tough one because obviously, today's thing isn't, 100% paid insurance for any companies. But when you look at comparisons, I mean, we do have to kind of look at what's out there as far as our comparisons. And when you look at the other schools in the metro, they all get 100% insurance. I think if I remember looking at the sheet, administration, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our principals and I think they're kind of in the middle. Am I accurate on that, Kevin? Dirk shaking his head, yeah.
Middle to
somewhere.
lower, yeah.
So I get the wage gap. I mean, one thing that you get into a different position for is obviously you're looking at, you do make a little bit more money. And this is where we'll agree on the benefits. I think the benefits should always be the same for your employees, but that money is where you're not going to take a promotion if it's the same. I mean, for $500 more a year, I mean, that's not conducive to the work and stuff. So I hear what you're saying, Tom, but I just want to make sure that we do keep our employees. And I think for all employees, a 3.95% is very generous, and you'd always like to give them more, but I don't think for what they went through the last 2 years that this is out of line. So I am for this. But I do agree with you on insurance, where we do have to, at some point, we do have to figure something out on insurance. And not that you want to take benefits away. I'd like to see given, better insurance to everybody too. So I'll leave it at that, but.
And my comment was going to be that the administrative staff is on call like our superintendent is 24 hours a day. So their job is not the 8 to 4 or 6:30 to 4, whatever their designated hours are. These people we call on 24/7, and they've given us that commitment day in and day out. Weekends don't matter, they're working, and we put them through their paces as we did our staff, our teachers, and they more than earned their money since March of 2020 as well. They have previous to that, but they worked hard for what they're getting paid right now, and it's the least we can do. So they're appreciated also.
Oh yeah, for clarification, it's not because we don't deserve this. I mean, like I said, we've talked about this before where we'd get larger raises to everybody. It's the fact that we're stuck with so much money. So, and it's just how we're going to use that money and how we're going to put that in front of kids. So it's not anything to do with somebody not deserving anything or not working hard for the money, because yeah, after the last 2 years, yeah. And with inflation the way it is, yeah, I'd give everybody a 10% raise if I could to try to cover that. But that's just not where we are right now, unfortunately. So.
Bridget, Whitney, any thoughts?
I do have a question, and I could have asked this before, but were there pay raises in 2001 and the last 2 years, were there pay raises as well, or?
Last 2 years?
Yes,
I think it was 2%.
2%. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure, because it sounds like when people are saying, considering what they went through the last 2 years, that they didn't get a pay raise because of, of all of the illness and COVID and everything going on. So it made me curious to find out if they actually have been getting raises or if this is the first one that they've had in a while. So.
Yeah, and I think it's been, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been kind of matched what Tom brought it up to what we've been giving to the teachers and the classified staff. With the last 2 years, it was 2%. And then this year, we kind of were 3.95% for both of those groups as well.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah. And it's strictly the differential I was worried about. When you're taking jobs that have maybe a $40,000 differential, and then we turn them into 42, and then we turn them into 46, and we turn them into 48. I mean, that differential just keeps growing. So that's why I'm just kind of thinking, if we have that set where, hey, your promotion this is a $40,000 pay increase. Well, now it's a $50,000 pay increase. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm seeing that divide grow. And that's where I just I look at all companies that way and I say, hey, if you're top heavy like that, it starts eating away at what's below it. So
Well, we're definitely not top heavy. I mean, we've cut positions back when I first got on the board in management. And, I mean, we cut them all the way around. And at some point, though, I don't know where if you keep saying, well, someday we're going to get your salary up to, I don't know if this is accurate, West Des Moines or Ankeny. They're competitors of ours, if you will, when it comes to teaching in the metro. At what point do we work on that? Because I get it, we want to be fiscal responsible, and we've done very well, thanks to Kevin and his crew, making sure that we have money. And this money, obviously, for the administrators comes from the management fund, which is still general fund, but it's calculated different, isn't it? This is,
all salaries come from the general fund.
it is general fund. Okay. So anyway, I don't know when we could make it up or where we can make it up. Everybody's stressed. I mean, we're losing teachers, because they just don't want to do the job anymore for whatever reason. We've been very fortunate. We haven't lost what we did to retirement. So in that case, I mean, you save money when you get an administrator that leaves it had tenure, and then so in a roundabout way, we always seem to make some of that money up in a way, because when the older teachers that have been around a long time leave, and then we come in. So I wouldn't say it's a wash, but I mean, I think, is there any truth to that, what I just said, Kevin? I mean, we do save, but we're not, I mean, it costs us money.
When you say savings, there's cost avoidance perhaps when it comes to what you're talking about as far as salary attrition, attrition of employees leaving with a higher pay salary, coming in with a lower one. There's attrition there for sure. As a growing school district, that helps out as well with our enrollment growth. So as long as we continue to grow steadily, we are okay to grow from a fiscal point steadily. And of course, the large part of that is also the state legislators when it comes to supplemental state aid increases for the future.
Rick? Nothing? Bridget?
Nothing to add.
One last question. Are we factoring, I'm sure you did this already, but we're factoring in the new principal and administrative staff that we're going to have due to our new building, correct? We've already factored that in.
Not in these negotiations.
No.
These negotiations are, as is every year, point in time, our staff point in time to the following year, to the next year.
Over the course of the next year, we'll do kind of a detailed staffing analysis. If you think about it, it won't be a new staff because Spring Creek no longer exists, and we've got a principal and a SAM there. With a new larger building, it's logical to think that we'll need more than just a principal and a SAM, and that's
Right.
where that analysis will come in. So there'll be some shuffling district-wide.
I guess my 2 cents. You know, we appreciate all of our staff, and that includes our administrators and other professionals that are part of this. And I think, you know, how do you show you appreciate your employees? One way is you say we appreciate you, but also we want to pay in a competitive way that shows that as well. We don't want somebody that we have that we value going to another school in the metro because we didn't take care of them and we didn't keep that pay commensurate with what their job is. And their jobs are different than what the teachers do or the custodians do. And we have, you know, pay scales that work with all these different groups. So I do hear the top heavy part, like not that I think that we are, but something to just keep an eye on, because when you look at private companies and you see CEOs that get paid hundreds of times what like the line worker gets paid, you're like, that doesn't quite feel right. But at the same time, I don't think that's anywhere near where we are. I think that we want to keep these folks on our staff. We want to make sure that they know they're appreciated. There is a lot of inflation going on, which we need to obviously from a financial standpoint be responsible with, but also, you know, I think I saw the other day, it was like 8.5% or something was the latest number for inflation. I mean, this percentage, I think is generous based on the resources we have, but at the same time, it's not even keeping up with the cost of living at this point. So, I mean, I'm for what we're doing here. I think that I'm also for keeping an eye on that to make sure that we are in a line with where we should be and that we're competitive with those districts around us. So that's all I have to say about it.
I guess I agree. I agree with Tom's points, and I'm glad he thinks that way because we need to hear that. But I think our administrators are less than half of, in the lower half of comparable schools around our community, around Des Moines, around our suburbs. And being a former activities director, the nights that our administrators put in, the weekends that our administrators put in, I'm lucky to still be married just because I have a wonderful wife that is understanding. You can't put a price on that. And I appreciate them. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Any final comments? Everybody's said what they wanted to say. Okay. Karen?
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tom,
No.
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
All right, letter C, grade 6-7 building commissioning contracts. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the agreement for mechanical and plumbing and building envelope commissioning services with Shive Hattery for the new 6-7 building for a total of $116,612.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Is Mr. McCombs?
Is there anything you want to add with that?
I just didn't know if you wanted to just give like a high level summary of what this is.
Sure. So commissioning services are basically, we have architects that design the building, then we have the contractors that put the things into the building. mechanical, plumbing, the roof, things like that. So this commissioning service is actually a third party to make sure that those things that are installed and as it designed are working as designed and doing the things from a general contractor standpoint, so that we can achieve what we need to do from an efficiency standpoint, make sure the roofing's where it needs to be, so we won't have issues down the road, that sort of thing. So it's a third party attestation of what work that's being done. We had a same service done when we opened up Mitchellville Elementary School, and that was on the mechanical and plumbing as well.
I was just gonna ask, have we done this anywhere else? Because is
Yes.
this isn't a change order, but this is part of the,
This
budget.
is
It's already
separate from the
budgeted.
project, but this is again, a third party that I'll throw into the cost of the building itself. Yes.
is there a reason why we didn't have that thrown in there? Why it's kind of second thought, I guess?
Well, for the 13 bids, that was more for the brick and stone and things like that for that construction. So this commissioning service wasn't part of the original budget. This is something that we have selected to choose to do.
Okay, so just, but we feel it's obviously a good thing. I mean,
For a brand new building.
we don't
yes.
trust them.
Yep.
or what? No, it's a little bit of money, but yeah, if it makes sure that it saves us money in the long run, it should be worth it.
This is where you tell them that this is to kind of oversee part of that $13 million HVAC system, right?
This is going to, make sure those things work
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Where we saved money on.
yeah.
Is this a standard for a project this size?
I think it is standard for new buildings, yes.
Okay.
School districts or whatever companies can choose to do so, but I think not doing so for the fraction of the cost for this building, it would be not a good responsibility not to do it.
Okay. So how are we paying for this?
This will be out of the save funds, probably, yes, not
Okay.
out of the bond money.
Anyone else?
So if once the building opens and we find that there are problems, would they come back and fix things? Is there an insurance policy or something?
Not
along
the
those lines?
commission, not the commission service, but this would be, as you talk about those sorts of things, those are punch out lists, things like that. So that's why we have the construction manager.
Mhm.
That's why we have our insurances as well.
Okay.
These people are like auditors, which they can come in and tell you what to do, but they don't make any of the changes for you. They just tell you whether or not you're doing it correctly.
Okay.
They'll be checking along the way too, so it's not just a wait till the
Correct.
end,
Good.
so that course
Correct.
corrections if needed will be made.
They won't slow production down.
No, they'll go hand in hand with
They'll work with-
production. So in this particular case, I believe, as far as the site visits during construction, they have 50 site visits, whereas the next vendor that came in had 24 site visits. So this is a really good proposal for us.
Well, that makes me feel a little better because I thought maybe it was like, once it's done, then they come in and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is broken. So it's a.
Yeah. Yep, and we want them in a little early just because if they see some things within design that might be less efficient than they need to be. For example, I'll use a simple example in a domestic house. If you move an HVAC, if you move a furnace to the center of the house where it's more easily distributable to the other rooms rather than to one side or the other, there could be savings there from an energy standpoint.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Kevin.
Karen?
Brett,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
All right, on to the approval of change order grade level 6-7 building. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, so this change order, there's a septic tank that was located on a owner's property that is adjacent to the middle school land. Because the septic tank is going to be in the middle of the roadway that's going to run north-south, the new Falcon Drive, we need to move that for the owner. To complicate matters a little bit more, because the land and the whole property is now being annexed or has been annexed by the city of Altoona, we can't simply move the septic tank or install a new one. It's got to go on city sewer. So without city sewer there, we've got to put in the sewer infrastructure to have that house on the city sewer. Now, we have agreed with the city of Altoona for them to fund 50% of those costs for us. In addition to this, and this came late, so it's not in your verbiage, there is a tree line that is adjacent with the Sam Wise complex that will be overhanging our roadway as proposed. So we've got to go in and cut those trees so they're not overhanging the roadways, and that's in addition to the initial write-up. And that was, if you can believe, it's $3,700. So in total, for the septic tank removal and installation to the city sewer and the tree removal services, the change orders for $54,574.66.
And well, under our contingency.
Yes,
Correct.
it'll be fine. So before you vote, what I didn't tell you is that during our prime contractors coming back, we did do some value engineering things. So we did have some savings during this process of value engineering. We changed some of the flooring that we had rolled resilient flooring to hardened concrete. We changed some of our light pole paintings to something different. But in all, during those value engineering pieces, we had saved $177,000 to that. So a good start to the cost perspective anyway of the program.
Well, don't cut costs just for to go cheaper.
I'm not cutting costs, I'm just avoiding
No,
Mr.
we don't
Henry.
want to do that. We don't want cheaper, we want quality. So
It's so quality.
If we go back to those primary colors, can we save some money?
no, red's actually more expensive.
Yeah.
Then we'll have Gary Fisher back at every meeting.
Anyone else?
Do we know about the septic tank, or somebody just found it when they were digging?
We knew that was part of it. We just didn't know where the roadway was going. During that time, if you recall, we didn't know if it was going to be a public road or a district road, et cetera.
Right, thanks.
All right, thank you. Karen?
Tom,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes,
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes,
All right, approval of high school masonry repair project. We have a motion.
Motion to approve or accept the Western specialty of the general contractor for the high school masonry repair project in the amount of $334,834.
Second.
Is there anything to, no? Any questions, commentary?
do we know anything about this company? Their work or anything?
I understand from our architects that they're a reputable company. Yes.
We haven't used them before.
I believe Mr. Haynes says we had not used them before.
But they have good references.
Yes.
All right, Karen?
Chad,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes,
Whitney,
Yes.
Brett,
yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Right, ends their new old business section. On to topics for discussion. Board recognition, school board appreciation month.
You bet. I will talk for a second here. May is School Board Recognition Month, designed to celebrate the contribution of board members to Iowa public education. Southeast Polk is celebrating the work of school board members who are launching Iowa's next generation through their commitment to students, schools, and communities. That launching is the IASB slogan for the year, and you'll see that some more later. Our board members are elected to the position by the community, and they're volunteers who care deeply about our children, our communities, and our future. They spend a great deal of time at regular monthly meetings, reviewing board materials, communicating with citizens, taking advantage of board learning opportunities, and attending school functions and activities. The SCP School Board is charged with being the navigator for our school district. They oversee the budget, develop policies, set the atmosphere for the district, and make decisions that impact the entire community. Most importantly, they're committed to student achievement. Our school board keeps the district moving forward. They serve over 7,000 students and over 1,000 employees in 15 buildings and are responsible for an annual budget of over $100 million. It's a big job, as Phyllis told us earlier, for no pay. But our board members serve to meet the needs of our student and our community. Tonight, we recognize the dedication and hard work of these public education servants. Please join me in saying thanks to our school board members and recognizing their commitment to our school. I have a few tokens of appreciation. Start with Natalie. Back to those coasters to take with. Thank you very much.
Somebody's at my door, ringing my doorbell. I'm gonna look for them. I like the little
Yeah.
squishy.
Yeah. Watch.
Oysters. What a pleasure.
Yeah.
If you notice behind you before you leave, make sure you take one of those baskets as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to learning recovery support staff. Dr. Latham.
Good evening, board, and I echo thanks for all the work that you do and support that you provide to our schools. Tonight, want to share a learning recovery support proposal as we continue our learning recovery plan and look to the next school year. As we've talked about in our learning recovery plan, we are highly focused on learning acceleration. And we've differentiated that from remediation in regards to remediation is going back and providing a lot of prerequisite work, where learning acceleration, students continue to get access to that grade level work, and then we backfill the skills and the prerequisite skills that are needed. The research has clearly shown that in times of school closure or times of gaps from education, that the learning acceleration model has far more positive benefits for students. So that is the model that we have focused on. We keep at the top the grade level standards that are provided by the curriculum unit. And from those standards, we have learning goals that outline each lesson. We develop a success criteria so teachers and students know what it would look like to be successful to meet that standard. We provide an array of assessments from informal to formal, could be observation, it could be paper pencil, it could be a performance task. And then we provide feedback to the students where they are in relationship to meeting that goal. So that is the overall cycle for core instruction, but we know that not all students will get it with core, and particularly with the gaps that we've had in the pathways. We have relied heavily on our MTSS or multi-tiered systems of support. So what I just defined there, you would see in the green. And those two were not in the presentation. I apologize. I thought a visual might be more helpful while I explained it. So the tier 1 is what I just explained. And then tier 2 and tier 3 on the left are in addition to the core. So these are interventions maybe that you provide a small group in a classroom, or it might be a reading support person. It might be the win time that students have where they go and work on a particular skill. These are all what we would say core plus. So students get the core and they get the plus. And that's where you might see the backfilling of the prerequisite skills. And then we also, a lot of times you'll see MTSS as an upside down triangle, but we make ours a sideways diamond because MTSS is also beyond the core. So for our students who have met those goals, we have enrichment in the classroom, and then we have accelerated support and pathways as well. So that is our MTSS model for academic support, and it's a continuum of services and support all the way across. And you will see a very similar model when we're supporting behavioral and mental health. So again, we have universal support within our classroom. We have a counseling curriculum. We have classroom meetings. We have Alveus, MVP, all those types of things. And some students will need targeted support. They'll need additional small groups. They'll need additional counseling support, or they may need intensive support with an on-site therapist. The different types of supports that are provided. And as we go beyond the core, then we have peer support, and that's where the peers step in to provide that modeling, the MVP support, et cetera. So those are our MTSS models for both academic and behavioral and mental health support. The proposal that I'm bringing to you tonight is for learning recovery specialists. We'll always have need for MTSS, but because of the pandemic and the gaps in learning, we need additional support to backfill those skills that were lost during those pathways. So again, you can see it's additional support for students who have gaps. We have the MTSS support and the instructional coaching. Those things are in place. We have the MTSS model, we have the instructional coaching to support teachers. And we are proposing that we would add a learning recovery specialist into our buildings. And this would come out of the ESSER funds, which 20% of those are to be set aside for direct academic support. And the model that we are asking or proposing for your consideration would include one learning recovery specialist at each elementary in Spring Creek, 2 positions at the junior high, and 3 positions at the high school. The approximate cost per semester, and this would be on a yearly basis, would be $300,000. I've met with Mr. Bacom to know that the ESSER funds are available for this. Well, that is the cost. If you look at the attached document that was in the board packet, there's a little bit more information in there as well. What we're proposing is that it's not necessarily a daily 8 to 4 position from August to May. We have the overall guidelines for how this position is to be used, but we want to give buildings the autonomy to use this position in a way that meets the needs that are presented by their data. So some people might have somebody all year long. Some people might start second quarter. Some elementary teacher or principals have said it's good to get the kids in, get the routines in place, get the first round of data, and then plug in that person. Some people are ready to go. Day one, here we go. Others have said maybe half-time for a full year, and others have said full-time for a half year. So everyone has the same amount of days that they can use, but they have the flexibility to plug that in even before and after school is needed. So maybe instead of 8 to 4, it's going to be 9 to 5, because kids can stay after school, or maybe someone will come in before school, some will stay after school. I think I illustrated lots of possibilities, but the point is that we want to provide a flexible model. So we are bringing this to you for your consideration this evening. If you can see the job goal, the performance responsibilities, the qualifications, and the cost. And we would provide this opportunity between now and May 2024. So principals would know they would have so many days of a learning recovery specialist, and they would have between now and that time to plug that person into their schedule. So that is up for your proposal. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Excuse me.
What kind of a person do you think would be interested in this position?
We are looking at certified teachers, and we are looking for those who would have knowledge of intervention support. And we've had even a few of our retired teachers who are very knowledgeable of our system who've expressed an interest. So it'd be great if they had some experience with Southeast Polk, but we're confident in our ability to build capacity in that.
But you're thinking someone that's going to be willing to work part-time.
Right. And,
and available for, 90 days.
Some people don't want to work full days. And so,
Right.
you know, a more.
Might spread
flexible
out
schedule.
180 days or.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So you said 90 days. Is that like full days or would that be translated to hours? Say if they came and worked part of, you know,
It would be a full school day.
a full school day?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. So it could be a half, so whatever, if you were a sub and you came in for a half a day, it would be that amount of time.
Okay, so that's what I just said is 90 days or like 180 days. I can make 180 days. Yeah.
Dr. Latham, I think this is a great idea. So in 2 years, when we open our 6, 7 buildings, since Spring Creek already has one, we'd just be adding another one to make it 2, just like the junior high, since it's.
It depends on if they use that position the next year rather than into the next year. So they can use it one time across that span of years. But that's something we could see what their model is and certainly make adjustments as needed.
And it's also something that we certainly have to discuss further as a board, because the funding source right now runs out in 24, which aligns with the opening there. So if this is something that we saw as very successful and we wanted to continue, then we would have to be building capacity to be able to fund that along the way, which I think we can certainly do.
My only concern is obviously we have trouble finding subs to come in and then trying to find, I get it, some people don't want to work full time, but we've got subs that are working full time
Right.
pretty much.
Our hope was by doing this learning specialist the second year, that hoping that COVID and illnesses stabilize a little bit. So maybe the sub need won't be as much. I know I'm wishful thinking.
Well, yeah,
but
they're
yeah.
all wishful.
But that, you know, that is our hope.
So obviously, and this could switch into another conversation quickly, but with each elementary, the last couple of years, we've had one teacher full-time in those buildings.
Mhm.
Is this on top of that? I haven't seen them come back, so I'm guessing we're not refilling those. Because
We will look at what the sub data looks like before but we haven't extended that position into the following year. Is that accurate, Mr. Horton?
so is there a reason we couldn't take those people and just turn them in there to where they're full-time, since we're already, we've already kind of budgeted that and just change, obviously you want the right person.
Yeah.
Um,
Possibly. There's a couple of things as we're looking at teacher certification. So a sub authorization wouldn't normally fit with that. You know, we could look at some possibilities where people are in progress, et cetera. And it's possible that that person could be translated then. The sub position has ended. They've had a really good match with this building. We're not renewing that, but here's an opportunity to be a learning recovery specialist.
So I thought those subs that we had were full-time certified teachers.
They could also have the sub authorization to meet that requirement.
So with you needing 14 individuals, could one person take care of several schools with that 90-day period?
We have talked, actually, one of the reasons that we've offered flexibility is that it could be that one person would work in one building for the 90 days and then go to another building, you know, so that we could stagger it across the time. My guess is it wouldn't be we wouldn't maximize it as much if they shared buildings in one span of time, just
Right,
because
yeah,
of
I kind of
the
meant
right.
daisy chaining, yeah.
But we've definitely talked about getting a team, an MTSS team that could possibly work between now and 2024
Right.
and provide those services. Definite possibility.
Yeah. Well, I know the schools pretty much, they enjoyed having those extra people to rely on, and I hate to take those away if it seems like we're kind of maybe going backwards on helping get the subs
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. It's kind of shifting that from full staff to a focus on learning. And in both models, they both existed. So, you know, if I'm a full-time sub and I come and everyone's fully staffed for today, then I'm going to help with MTSS. I would just say in this model, the emphasis is shifting now to the learning recovery piece, but both pieces exist.
I
still.
would jump in too, sorry to
Okay, no,
interrupt.
go
but
ahead.
In talking about the subs piece, remember, we didn't start the year in either of the 2 years where we've done that with them. That was the second semester thing, because that's kind of when the need reared its head in both cases. So I think it's something where we can kind of watch as we go through the fall. And if we need to re-up that program, we can. I think that part of the help is as you move through the summer with grads and things like that, we replenish that sub pool. But I understand your concern, because
Yeah,
if
I'm
it's
not gonna
another year
be
like
against
this,
obviously.
we couldn't live without that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just think it'd be interesting. I mean, it's obviously unique. I hope there's enough people out there that'll want to work part-time and
Well, I think. the
and
pay-
fill
the
in
pay-
sick days and
Yeah, the pay helps. I
Other
mean,
stuff,
what
so.
you're offering on this. That's why I wondered what you were looking for specifically for this.
I know some principals, this is still in proposal form, but I know they put out some feelers and tested the waters, and there's some interest, whether it will be enough, but
Well,
again, we're
I-
looking across the span of time.
yeah, I'm hoping the glass is half full and not half empty.
There you go.
Well, I love the idea, and I heard you say several times it's flexible, which is great. But just looking at enrollment numbers, I mean, you have on your list there, one for every elementary, but with Clay being 576 and two other schools in the 400s, and then you have two schools in the 200s. I
Right.
mean, you just think by volume
Right.
that some schools might need
Right.
two, and maybe two schools could share. I mean, but you have said a couple times it's flexible.
Yes,
right?
and we've looked at that as well, and I
Yeah.
would agree that there may be some flexibility that we'll build into that to accommodate for the differences. We looked at perhaps adding another one to some of the larger schools, and it exceeded what we were able to.
The
put
dollar
forth at
amount.
this time. Yeah.
And the other thing could be that just because the school's bigger, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have more learning needs than a smaller school might.
It
So-
will be that's a good point as well, that the data will help drive that and drive the flexibility as
Yeah.
well.
So on the flexibility part, just so I understand, is this you start today and you're working for 90 days?
Not
straight?
necessarily.
No.
The principals put forth different models, like even one of them had it at the elementary Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And Wednesdays, they would not come in and work because of the shortened day and the different types of meetings that they had. Some had that person coming half day for a full year. Some people had it for 2 years, coming from October through Iowa state testing. So there were different models. So it's not necessarily start here and do my 90 days. It's 90 days across what can be worked out between the hiring principal and the person that's hired.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking if I was a principal, I probably would want to take that, figure out the number of hours I have to work with.
Yeah.
And then when do I need those? Do I
Exactly.
need them after school, during school?
Right.
Do I need them this semester or next semester?
Mhm.
And maybe, I have half days and they come in after lunch and they stay after school and do some after school groups. So
Mhm.
a lot of different ways that we could deliver that.
And could they change midstream whenever they see that the need has changed, or?
I
triage
think,
along the way?
when we contract with the teachers that will hopefully have lining up outside to do this, that it would be a collaborative conversation.
Okay.
We want to make sure we have a good communication and understanding for the people that we hire. But I think lots of things are possible.
Well, what I was getting at, I mean, not changing minds or anything, but if they have a set schedule of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but then they see that they really need somebody just on Wednesdays,
Yeah.
can they
Yes.
make that jump?
Most definitely.
Are we budgeting this on just saying, hey, we're gonna take 20% of those funds, and that's kind of what we're using as our guideline?
So with the ESSER 3 funds, we got X dollars.
Mhm.
20% of that was for, it's for learning loss, what basically it is, but that total is about $800,000. Right now, through the third quarter of this year, we have about $700,000 left. So that has to be used for that particular purpose.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Nave?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're looking at 2 years of of this, kind of projecting that out through 24 and saying, hey, about $300,000 a year. And that gives us that $100,000 buffer. And that's kind of where you're going. And that's at a minimum. So we do still have other monies that we could add to it, like if Rick
Yep,
said. We
That's
needed to.
correct. That is the
Okay.
floor for learning loss. Yes.
Bingo. Okay.
That's a good question. Because I'm thinking about, we've got like summer school and some other things that we've added. But it's hard to picture exactly where we're at with ESSER funds and how far can we extend that out? Is there more that, could we add 2 people to each building, or like, what would that look like with the funds that we have available? Because 20% that's the minimum.
Right.
But we could spend as much of it as we have available on that. So
We're going to spend every penny before it comes to, for sure. But we, obviously, we're not
Making me
buying,
nervous.
we're not buying the PPE like we used to do. We're not buying those sanitary supplies like we used to do. So we can spend more of that money towards education rather than those types of products.
That's kind of been our focus too, as we move through with the rest of this, is where does it affect the kids the greatest? And with, again, the hope that we're out of the need for cleaning overtime and PPE, as Kevin talked about it, and those kind of things that were just never budgeted for in the first place, because
Thank you.
I did want to share with you tonight a second proposal, and this is for adoption of instructional materials to support secondary health. So I want to share with you a timeline that we engaged in, very similar to the timelines whenever we do an instructional materials adoption. In the fall, I will send out letters to publishers saying that we're looking at adoption, and they can send materials to us to review to see whether they meet our criteria. And we also distribute a rubric at that time, which I'll share here in just a little bit. We create a rubric that we evaluate the materials with to determine whether they are something we'd like to pilot, if they meet enough of our criteria, or if there's something that maybe isn't meeting our needs. So in the winter of 21-22, we did pilot some materials. The teachers completed the rubric, and they would get together. They got together one time to kind of share the feedback where they were so far. They went back and did some additional piloting and then came back again. And during that second time, they did make a recommendation for the materials, and it was a unanimous recommendation from the members of the committee. They then came to the district advisory meeting that we had on April 5th, I think it was, and shared the process that they went through and the rationale for what they were recommending. Once we present that to the district advisory and get their feedback, then our next step is to make a proposal to the board, which we are doing tonight. So this was our secondary materials review team. It consisted of our secondary health teachers, Amy Anderson, up to her time of leave, Mr. Daly, the junior high principal, Mr. Dietzenbach, the high school assistant principal, and myself. So we were the members of the committee that reviewed these materials. And and you just scroll down just a little bit, I'll tell you. Wow. Okay, right there. So this is the rubric that we use to evaluate the materials. When we evaluate instructional materials, we use a standard rubric, but then we add items that are specific to the subject being studied. And then we also work with the review committee and say, are there any other things that you think we should add to this rubric to look for? So, oh, and he made that bigger. Thank you. So if you want to scroll down just a hair more, Jason. So if you can see in the right-hand column, those are the Iowa Chapter 12 requirements for health. So that's the legislative code. These are the things that are saying in the code that we are required to teach in our schools. So obviously, when looking at materials, we needed to find resources that would help us meet Iowa code. There are no Iowa health content standards because the topics come from chapter 12, but we do have health literacy standards that are written around the 21st century skills. So like problem solving, critical thinking, making good decisions, etc., around those topics. So also needed to review whether these materials would allow us to meet the Iowa health literacy standards as well. So for the materials that were piloted, this rubric was used by the teachers to evaluate those components. So these are the three publisher companies that we piloted the materials. We piloted materials from Goodhart Wilcox, McGraw-Hill, and Savas, which if you've been on the board for a while, that was formerly Pearson. So there's been a lot of joining and retaking or rebuying of publishing companies. So Savas used to be Pearson. And the recommendation to the district advisory committee on behalf of the teachers who piloted the materials were the Savas instructional materials. The benefits that they saw in these materials, one, they were aligned to the chapter 12 requirements. So we would meet the code there. It was compatible with our learning management system with Canvas. So it was very seamless to integrate those things right into their Canvas course and to be able to provide that. And what they liked too is that they didn't have to take the whole thing in and use it. They could choose different slides, choose different activities, so they could make it fit what their learning goals were. One thing that was really a plus for these materials is that it had a lot of scaffolds and supports built in for a variety of learners. So if learners needed additional support, even reading or accessing the materials, if a student didn't speak English as their first language, there are a lot of those scaffolds and supports built right into the materials. So some audio support, some translation support, some visual support so that they can see things in multiple ways and labeled. So they did appreciate those. And there were also many digital resources and tools that were beneficial. So in the next phase of the timeline, we are proposing this to the school board to adopt Savas instruction materials for secondary health. We are currently in the process of negotiating a quote back and forth with Savas, and each teacher, there are 3 of them, would have a set of 30 classroom textbooks. So they would have 30 textbooks in their classroom. They would receive all the teacher resources that went along, and the students would all have digital access. So the textbooks would be in the classroom, but all students could digitally access these materials and the resources that went along with that. Again, with Chromebooks, we're not getting a textbook for every student. We're getting classroom sets and then using the technology. And also with Canvas, they call it a cartridge. And so they can take these materials and they just put it all right into Canvas, and it's all available for the teachers then to build and design their units. So those are the things that come in the quote that we're currently negotiating. And so we're proposing this to you tonight. When we come back at our next board meeting, we'll have the quote, and as a board, you can vote on whether to accept and move forward with that. So I want to thank the teachers and the committee for their hard work in this area. It's one that they want to make sure they have the right resources to be able to support students in that type of learning. And so they did a lot of hard work, and they had a lot of good discussions with each other on how to best utilize those resources. What questions do you have in regards to the health proposal?
I have a question regarding technology and that's some of our online delivery. I understand how it intersects well with Canvas, but what about, does that impact the option that's available on Edgenuity?
For health. They could link Edgenuity if there were any resources that they wanted to pull in. So Edgenuity is aligned to the standards that we have,
Okay.
but you can link those things in through Edgenuity because we can add things of our own. So they could link into that as well.
Okay, so that could be added to the content of Edgenuity.
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I know that's a popular option to take that over the summer.
Very much so. Our
Yeah.
goal is that our designs will eventually replace Edgenuity. But we're kind of in a transition where it might be part Edgenuity, part our design, and it will gradually move to our own design.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I forgot to add previously that when the committee presented to the district advisory and they had a chance to look through some of the things, they had an online presentation as well. They were all in support of these materials and found them to, and Lori attended that meeting. Lori,
Yes.
want to add anything to
Very
that?
much in favor. And it was a very positive meeting.
Is there a pretty big gap in? I guess there were 3 different options that you piloted.
Mhm.
Is there a pretty big gap in the alignment with standards and the types of resources and integration with Canvas?
Without saying anything, I'll say one, pretty much they just didn't see a good match to our content. And so that one, we really didn't even pilot full units on that. I'd say the other 2 were fairly close in everything. And I think what helped Savas be the one that is proposed is that it had more options for differentiation for different learning needs. And
Okay.
so that kind of eked it forward from the other one.
Okay. And the textbooks, I guess, do you foresee that those are they going to get used? Like if they have access to all the materials on their Chromebooks?
Sometimes students do use them for reference in the classroom. And for some students, it is written into their IEPs that they use a textbook rather than a
Okay.
technology. So it meets both of those purposes.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'm curious, who is on the district advisory committee? That's not the same thing as a secondary health team, correct?
No, I can send you the list. We have a district advisory committee that includes school members, community members, students that is part of the school improvement state that we meet 3 times a year.
Mhm.
The board always, the vice president is a representative on the board, but I can certainly send you the membership of that. I have it
Okay.
on a Excel sheet.
Good. I just wanted to make sure that that parents and students were looking at this as well.
Mhm. Yes, and parents always will have ability to preview it, take a look at it, those types of things. If it's, something that we're proposing and adopting, then that was something that they can certainly preview.
How early are you going to have them preview it?
Parents,
Yes.
they can call at any time that they would like. So
Do you have a copy of the books that we can look at before we vote?
I do not. I asked the sales rep for those. They no longer carry those around. But I can see what I can do about getting an online access code
Okay.
for you.
Yeah, because I can't vote on a textbook that I haven't seen, so. Especially in health. You did have something in here about the current, wait, let me go back to it. It's an IRA code, but it says current crucial health issues and human sexuality, self-esteem. So are those variables that can change throughout the year as to what is being taught? Because if it's a current issue,
Mhm.
that could change.
And Mr. Daly might be able to answer this. What I heard from the health teachers is that with the number of topics that they're required to teach by chapter 12, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for other things.
Like, for example, you have 45 days, because our health classes is a 4 long. So there's only a certain span of time that they do. So the depth at which we get into, especially at the 7th grade level, will be different, but also the amount of time.
So it's pretty tight. I think if something would come up, for example, I'm sure they discussed the pandemic, when things are very relevant to their lives, but they have their curriculum pretty tight and they need to get after it in order to meet all the requirements.
And when those things come up, do the parents get to see, or at least be made aware that those things are coming up and are being taught to their students?
That's a good question. I don't know how specific we are since it still falls under the umbrella of chapter 12.
Right.
I'm not sure if a specific note goes
It's a
out
pretty big
because
umbrella.
it still falls within
Right.
the teaching guidelines.
And are there, I know that I filled out a waiver for my son.
Mhm.
So or do those waivers still exist?
Yes.
Okay.
That is state code as well.
Good.
And it's board policy too.
Good.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can we get a
I want to just say, next Wednesday is the Dollars for Scholars Scholarship Award Night. At 7 PM, we're giving away about $226,000 in the high school gym. So if you can attend, please plan to attend.
All right, with that, can we get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
So